This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Tesla reported its year-end earnings yesterday, and its fourth quarter was pretty rough. Profits plummeted 71%. Its operating margin fell to only 6.2%, which is below General Motors' 6.8% margin. And yet, investors shrugged off the news and bid the stock up 4% in after-hours trading. Why? One reason is that they loved hearing Elon Musk tell analysts that Tesla will start testing unsupervised full self-driving as a paid service in Austin in June and will start mass production of its Optimus robots this year. And investors expect that to eventually generate massive profits. Even so, Elon must be glad that the company put 2024 behind it. For the full year, Tesla's sales fell 1% to 1.78 million vehicles. Its revenue also fell 1% to $97.7 billion. But a couple of positive developments elsewhere in the company covered up deeper problems with Tesla's automotive operations. For example, revenue of energy storage systems shot up 67% to more than $10 billion. Revenue from services, which includes insurance, financing, and vehicle repairs, was up a strong 27% to $10.5 billion. Also, Tesla sold $2.7 billion of ZEV credits to other automakers last year, up 54%. But even with all that, Tesla's operating profit dropped 21% for the year, and its net profit plummeted by 53% to $7 billion. And with a net profit margin of only 7.3%, Tesla is starting to look like a traditional automaker. And despite Tesla's plans to start testing unsupervised FSD in Austin in a matter of months, it's still way behind Waymo. Yesterday, Waymo announced it's expanding into 10 more regions in the U.S., including Michigan's Upper Peninsula and upstate New York, and it's also going to Tokyo. At first, it will use human drivers to physically drive the vehicles. Then it will use safety drivers on board to monitor the cars. And if all that works well, the cars will drive autonomously with no driver at all. Toyota reported its sales for 2024, and when you include Lexus, Daihatsu, and Hino, it remained the biggest automaker in the world. It sold a little over 10.8 million vehicles last year, which was down 3.7%. But if you exclude Daihatsu and Hino, which dealt with emission cheating scandals that eventually led to stop sales, Toyota and Lexus's sales were down 1.4% to 10.16 million vehicles. Lexus only makes up a small portion of that total. It sold 851,000 vehicles in 2024, up 3.3%, while BEVs are an even smaller portion. Toyota sold just under 140,000 purely electric vehicles last year, which was up 34.5%, but it's still significantly less than most major automakers. But Toyota wasn't the only Japanese automaker that saw its global sales go down last year. Honda sales were down 4.6% to 3.8 million vehicles, while Nissan sales hit 3.3 million in 2024, down 0.8%. And with sales falling, the case for a Honda-Nissan merger only gets stronger. Volkswagen created an uproar in Germany when it announced it wants to shut at least 3 assembly plants and lay off 35,000 employees to save 15 billion euros a year by the end of the decade. And yet, VW's board members don't think those cuts go far enough. Germany's Handelsblatt newspaper reports that VW board members believe more cuts are needed to hit the cost-cutting target. The report also says that VW is pushing back its profitability target for a 6.5% margin for 3 or 4 years instead of the end of next year. And we wouldn't be surprised if things actually get worse than what's being reported now. Those tariffs the EU slapped on Chinese EVs seem to be having their desired effect. Well, sort of. According to automotive researcher Dataforce, registrations of EVs from Chinese brands fell 3.5% last year in Europe, which is the first annual drop since they entered the market. Chinese EV brands accounted for 8.5% of the EV market in 2024. Last year, the EU slapped tariffs of up to 35% on Chinese EV imports because it said they have an unfair advantage because they benefit from state subsidies. And while the tariffs have slowed sales, brands like BYD and Japan have seen sales increases.
Developing today's vehicles. Issues can happen in an instant. When's the best time to solve a problem? The minute you know you have one. Meet Wireless Neovi Cloud, your secure, off-the-shelf solution empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless Neovi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless Neovi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
Renault is using its newest concept, called the Filante Record 2025, to showcase possible future technologies while also displaying its design capabilities. Inspired by record-breaking speed cars of the 1930s and 1950s, it's a single-seater with a long, thin fuselage and wheels and tires that are attached with small suspension arms like an F1 car. The proportions sound rather impressive too. It's over 5 meters, or about 16.8 feet long, just over 1.1 meter, or 3.9 feet tall, and 1.71 meters, or 5.6 feet wide. So it's long, narrow, and short. And even though it's electric, it's very light, just 1,000 kilograms, or 2,200 pounds. 60% of that weight is the battery, but Renault kept weight down by using cell-to-pack technology, which eliminates modules from the inside of a pack, as well as using a lot of carbon fiber. Some of the future tech that one day might make it into production cars include steer and brake-by-wire systems. And in the Filante Record 2025 concept, Renault envisions controlling acceleration and braking through steering wheel controls. That's a quick little overview of the new concept, but we wonder who you think did the better futuristic car, Renault with the Filante or Jaguar with its Type 00 concepts. The refreshed BMW iX is offering some pretty significant upgrades. First, it adds about 31 miles of range, now covering up to 340 miles on a single charge. It was able to do that thanks to a new inverter that gets silicon carbide chips, which are more powerful and efficient, the newest eDrive system, and new battery cell technology, which increases overall capacity. The iX is also the first production vehicle to feature BMW's curved display and latest operating system, which includes an AI assistant and enables things like in-car streaming and gaming. All versions now come standard with all-wheel drive, including a new M70 model, which has 650 horsepower and does 0 to 60 in 3.6 seconds. It starts at $111,500, including destination charges. But for those that don't want all that power, a new xDrive 45 model is now available with 402 horsepower and a starting price of just over $75,000, which is $12,000 cheaper than the previous entry-level trim. And speaking of BMW, it's coming out with a station wagon version of the M3 CS for the first time ever. Like the sedan, it's available with a turbocharged 3-liter inline 6-cylinder engine that's paired with an 8-speed automatic to send power to all 4 wheels. But unfortunately for those of us in North America, we won't be able to tap into its 550 horsepower and do 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3.2 seconds. Deliveries in Europe, Australia, Japan, and South Korea start this March. This is something we think is pretty significant. Bridgestone, which is one of our sponsors, is going to start recycling used tires. And we mean it will recycle them back down to their original ingredients. It will use a process called pyrolysis, which involves heating the tires in an oxygen-free environment to extract the original materials. Bridgestone will collect oil and carbon black to use as raw materials to make new tires. The company will start construction of the pilot plant in November in Japan. Operations kick off in 2027, and it will have the capacity to process 7,500 tons of tires a year. 2 days from now, President Trump is promising to slap 25% import tariffs on cars and parts that come from Canada and Mexico. The auto industry is deeply worried about what could happen. Some suppliers are telling automakers there's no way they're going to eat that cost, and they'll raise prices immediately. A few suppliers are predicting that car production in North America will grind to a halt in about a week as well. And that's what we'll be talking about on Autoline After Hours later today. We've got the supplier expert Paul Eichenberg coming on the show, as well as Perry Stern from Cars Yeah! So if you want to get a better idea of what could happen to the auto industry, join John and Gary when the show goes live at 3 p.m. Eastern Time today. But that's a wrap for this show. I hope to see you later.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Intrepid Control Systems. Over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.